Are anime and video games art? Can you even localize art? Can you localize cultural expression without it becoming not art? I can see how Arrival is art, but is the German dub art? If a government alters the ending because of censorship laws, is it still art? To me, art can't be translated, but not localized. But even if you disagree with my definition of art, or if you disagree that art cannot be localized, it is undeniable that a division exists among consumers of foreign media. The artistic versus the commercial. And the reason this discussion exists in the first place is because when these different groups are forced to coexist, some attrition is inevitable. We all have one or more native tongues, the language of our surroundings in our formative years. If you are watching this video, chances are good you were also taught to read and write in one or more languages as a kid. Your region probably produces TV shows, novels, movies, video games, and music in your native language. And yet, most of us consume some media from a culture whose language we don't understand. Why? There are several reasons. Your country might not produce content of a specific genre medium pair that you want. Your country might be culturally influenced by a different country and that's why you consume their media. It might be a personal reason instead of like a broader social one. But whatever the reason is, we are not satisfied with the stuff we can understand. Language is intrinsically linked to culture and context, so by consuming things from a different language, it broadens your horizons. You get to experience different perspectives, things completely outside your cultural sphere. Besides, if you limit yourself to your language and country, you might miss the best things made by humans. Now, not everyone will be interested in these experiences with the outside world, and that's completely fine. But to state that the ones who do care about having those experiences don't have a good reason to do so kind of pisses me off. Localizers will tell you that you need to change symbolism in works. You can't show a primary school uniform to an American video game player because they would not feel the same nostalgia as a Japanese person would. Why do you need to feel a specific feeling when playing this? If I want a feeling I'm familiar with, I would play a video game from my country. Also, not every Japanese person is going to have that feeling. Are they wrong? If I miss a reference or the work does not affect me the way the author intended, that is fine. That is a valid way of consuming media. Red Bar does not think her way of consuming foreign media is right. She thinks it's the only way possible. And that kind of pisses me off too. Besides, this point is ridiculously hypocritical and doesn't hold under 5 seconds of scrutiny. Japanese games and anime use English words in order to get a sense of coolness and fanciness. So, in order to translate the experience, you would have to use a different language other than English for those in your translation. Yet, these are mostly left in English. Why? Because this point is completely bullshit. Stuff like this is why it's important to think of why this works cross borders. If we want to understand the ramifications of how we deal with them, we need to understand who brings them over and for what reason. This, of course, varies heavily for different mediums, origins, and destinations. There is, though, one thing in common. For all these mediums, there are people who are willing to work, sometimes for free, to translate works. Books, comics, TV shows, movies, music are a lot of times translated from fans to fans, and I think that's extremely heartwarming. That proves that these media can cross borders without corporate interference and financial motives. A process that involves only what I call artistic stakeholders, people whose interest lies in the consumption, discussion, and promotion of a work, and not in broad reach and profit. Due to the extreme closeness of the people with the material, public, and context they're working with, their output is usually very distinct for commercial ones. Localization is just one way stuff crosses over. It involves a company that wants to profit from a work from a different country. Said company will do whatever it takes to maximize reach. That includes literally anything they can get away with. These adaptations and official translations are just that, product-motivated products. I won't judge you for consuming this crap. I eat Burger King once in a while, but I assure you, if you consume commercial stuff, you do not have any moral high ground. If you are translating a very famous novel like Anna Karenina, for example, you have very little leeway on localization. It is famous, has a cult following, is deeply linked with Tsarist Russia, the target public is kinda broad, and localization ignorance will not help you. A book like this, the editors wouldn't dare to localize too much. They would get a lot of backlash. Parasite, Oscar-winning film, doesn't even have a dub. Try something funny with it and see how much backlash you're gonna get. Now, take a video game like, say, Chrono Cross. You can change names, lines, even entire events. You can basically create a new game for the target audience. This is a 2000s game, nobody can call you out and nobody will know. If a company can change a work completely to satisfy a perceived market demand, they will. You can clearly see how different works receive different levels of respect when crossing over commercially.
You're consuming the ideas, not the words of someone else. And how those ideas get brought over is transferred through the lens of the translator, making them as important as the author. Whew.
Can you imagine someone saying this about Huxley, Tarantino? Yeah, no. The role of a translator is to be a translator. It's not to create something new based on the work they're translating, it's not to reach the broader public. It's also not to make the target audience comfortable with the material. This is why supporting translators and not localizers, it's a valid point. I keep saying localization is done to reach a broader audience, so I must point out that things can thrive and have reach without being localized. Music does, cinema does, books do. Anime did back in the 90s and 2000s. When anime came to the West in those years, it was not through localization but mostly fan translated. Some video games thrive basically unlocalized. The King of Fighters series is basically left untouched. So it's not a point of not wanting these works to be known by more people. It's not being willing to sacrifice the work itself for that purpose. I hope I have shown you here that there is a reason to make a distinction between translation and localization as it pertains to our goals as consumers of foreign media. The different ways people interact with foreign media and why making these distinctions is important. Next time, we will talk about medium and information loss. Thank you for watching, see you next time.